I want to kind of take just a quick minute and wrap up what we tried to do this morning. Can everybody hear this mic? We now have the lavalier mic. Can you hear it okay? Okay. One of the things that the premise for creating people that can win campaigns is the first premise is they have to understand that they have to be a different kind of politician. And I tell students all the time, one of the first things in my classes at Harvard, I'll say, how many people in here want to be a politician? And normally most of the hands go up. And when that happens, I say, get out. We don't need politicians. How many people want to be a leader? Raise your hands, and then I want you sitting in this class. Because we will help show you how to be a leader, why leadership matters. And it's true. As we were talking about earlier, I know scores of politicians. And I'm sorry to say, I can't say that I know a lot of leaders. But what does my heart good is when I see groups like this, and I talk to you individually, as I've done during the breaks and at lunch, and this common denominator is we want to do this for the right reason. We want to change Brazil. We want to change the world. Well, what we tried to do then with the second period, the messaging is, if the first hurdle, if you will, is this concept of leadership, and you understand why you're doing it, the next one very often is, I've got to have a message that connects. I have to tell people something that matters in their lives. I have to connect at a very personal level, or it won't matter. No matter all my leadership skills, if I cannot communicate them, if I cannot develop a message that resonates, I'm not going to win. Well, if that's the second one, this is the third one. And that is, normally in this day and age, if you want to win, and I look at this in all the campaigns I do, I want to get an advantage wherever I can. This is one area where, particularly in a place like Brazil, where you probably haven't spent nearly the money that some nations have, that you can learn techniques that we're about to show you, or how to build an organization that can win that your opponent probably isn't doing, because there's no history of doing. And it was fun for me to go around and sit in. I got into most of the groups as you were talking about your candidate, Carlotta, who's, I feel like I know Carlotta, just listening to the various Carlottas we had, and to the give and take. And seeing how you're developing this message, this is how it should play out. One of the things that I would say, we're going to talk about it here when we get to the research end, and you might use this in your exercise with Carlotta. I normally tell my staff, when we get together in our inner circle, I'll say the first campaign we're going to run is against our candidate. Let's determine as a group, how would we beat our candidate? If I can have that discussion and still think my candidate can win, I'm in pretty good shape. If I can't get past all my candidate's problems, and I look and go, boy, this guy is so flawed they can't win, I'm probably in trouble. So instead of saying, because our temptation is normally, oh, I love my candidate, so how do we beat the opponent? And I normally want to say, no, how are they going to beat me? Because if I can anticipate that and beat them, I'm in pretty good shape. And so it was fun to watch you, and there was a lot of discussions. I won't comment beyond that on why Carlotta was a good candidate or a bad candidate. But if you can jump the hurdle as to why someone's bad, the good probably will take care of itself. Now, staffing the campaign. One of the things that I mentioned earlier, that when Harvard called and said, we're interested in having you teach a course, mainly because part of it was you've been pretty successful at what you've done, but this idea of a professional campaign organization, a business plan that literally, and when we do a business plan, Marcos has seen one that I do for international clients. It's 250, 300, 350 pages long. It's extremely detailed. Every department knows exactly what they're supposed to do. their timetables, their accountabilities, their job descriptions. And what that allows me to do as a manager is to, and we communicate regularly, to say, okay, press office, here were your goals for the week. How many satellite feeds? You're supposed to do 2 satellite feeds. Did you do them? How'd they go? What happened? What was good or what was bad? You're supposed to do a couple radio feeds. How'd that go? You're supposed to do a conference call. How'd that go? You're supposed to do a press release a day. Did you get those out? What was the feedback? Did you get letters to the editor plan? Every description is planned. So not unlike a business, I can come in and say, did you hit your goals? If you didn't, you better have a good reason. And I normally have a rule in my campaign. For lack of a better term, we call it the screw-up rule. The screw-up rule is you can screw up once, and you still have your job. You screw up twice, you're fired. So good luck with that. And what I found with that is the staff loves it. They know I've got their back. They know I will fight so that they will not have to be fired, that they will keep this together. But they want to win too. They don't want to screw up. They don't want to hurt the campaign. The point is, this staff that we're about to build, it has to run like a business, has to run like a machine. Okay? And we're going to go through each of the departments and show you today in a campaign of any size. You know, maybe it's if your campaign only has a couple thousand voters, you're not going to have a lot of these staffers. But in a campaign of any size, large city mayor, governor, president, you're going to have virtually all of these and sometimes more. Okay? So this is why we build it. When you ask candidates around the world, what's the biggest problem in your campaign? It's always staff. I don't control the staff because the party controls it. Hear that a lot, right? So how do I run a campaign? The party's that controls the staff. They've got all the staff, and I don't control it. So how do I run it? We're gonna address it. Or they'll say, how do you get good staffers? How do you get good staffers? It's hard. They don't ask for money. Well, let me back up. They always ask for money, but staff's what they want. They want professionals who know what they're doing. Number one, I work, by the way, under the belief that every candidate should have their own personal staff and not simply party staff. In Brazilian campaigns, do you normally have your personal staff for a mayor or governor or for any other position, or do you go through the party? People normally have their own teams. Good. Good. Why do you want your own team? I used the example earlier in Spain. The Mariano Rajoy said, I can't get the message right because I got a message in the party, all the different MPs, everybody has their own message, and I don't control it. Because the party in Spain runs much of the political operation. Rajoy had his own campaign, but it was very small. I said, my God, you're running to be the leader of the country. You need to take ownership. When I have a personal staff, they're accountable to me. And I'll make them accountable. So I want that. If you don't have it, and in Brazil you do, some places don't, they entirely rely on the party, I still encourage those candidates, get your own inner circle. You have to have a nucleus around you whose main concern from the minute they get up to the time they go to bed is, what can I do to elect this guy? Not the party now, this guy. That kind of loyalty, that kind of determination to make sure that the candidate's successful, I think is invaluable. And when I asked Rajoy's chief of staff, I said, well, but Rajoy is going to become the president. The party folks will work for him. And he said, yeah, but if he loses, the party folks keep their job. They still stay. And I said, can't you fire him? He said, no. I said, then get your own staff. I don't want someone that comes to work today that says, well, I hope Jarding wins, but if he loses, I still got a job. I want their life tied to my life. If I win, they win. If I lose, they lose. Can't stress it enough, that loyalty, that sense of trust. So this idea that make sure that you have this nucleus that has your back, that you trust. Why, though, is it tough to get campaign staffers? Well, anywhere in the world, campaign staffers tend to be fairly young, often even in their teens, mostly in their 20s. They tend not to be very experienced. They tend to be often single or newly married without children. Why? Because once you get older and you start to have families, the demands take you away. It's harder to be loyal enough to a campaign to sit there for 16 hours a day. I mentioned this morning, in my campaigns, 85-hour work weeks. That's what we do. 84, 85, sometimes it's a little less, but that's what it is. It's basically 13, 14, 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because we get one shot at winning. And I tell people, you can rest after the campaign. If we win, you can write your future. You can name your ticket. But we got to win. We lose, you're in trouble. Because your benefits stop, you're out of a job. There's, again, no ribbon for second place. Young people can do that, right? I still manage campaigns, but I'm starting to wean myself. I'm 55 years old. It's a young person's game. It's hard for this old guy to sit there 16, 17 hours a day, 7 days a week, okay? It was easier when I was younger, but that's part of it. Another reason, campaigns tend not to pay very well. Long hours, again, 80-hour work weeks aren't uncommon. Few benefits. Do you have campaign benefits for campaign staff in Brazil? Do you have 401ks? Do you have, very normally you don't. All right, but look at why it's tough to find professional staff. No job security. You don't know if the candidate's going to, if they lose, you have a job. No pensions. You get pensions? Oh, you're on my staff, I'm going to give you a pension? Normally not. I haven't really run into any campaign staff anywhere in the world that has a huge package of benefits, including pensions. High turnover, high stress. That's a killer to families and marriages. I did a presidential campaign in the United States in 1992. I have twin boys that were born September 20th. My candidate announced September 30th. And for the next 6 months, I didn't see my twins. My wife was very happy about that, as you can imagine. They were twins, twin boys, not identical, fraternal. But my wife, when I would come home the very few times, she would say, okay, Steve, which one's John, which one's Ethan? Torment. Now, I'm thinking I'm a smart guy. I don't really recognize them because they look exactly alike, but I got a 50-50 shot, right? There's only two, you know? If it was triplets, I'd have been dead every time. But it was twins. So I would say, come on, hon, that's John and that's Ethan. And invariably, I was wrong. She'd say, you don't even know your own child. It's tough. It's tough, right? That's why it's hard. You're constantly being second guessed. You guys know that. A lot of you are involved in party politics. I'm in a campaign. Every time the candidate talks to somebody, how come you doing this? How come you're not here? You should be campaigning here. Why were you over there? How come you didn't talk to this person? Why'd you take that position? You're foolish here. You're going to lose now. And invariably, they'll call the campaign and say, how come I'm not here? How come I'm not doing this? How come I'm losing here? Those people don't have your campaign plan. They don't have your strategy. They don't have your research. But they're out to show the candidate they're smarter than his or her campaign team. So they're always telling them how stupid you are and how smart they are. It's hard. That puts a lot of stress on you. Campaigns are tough. All right? So just understand, what we're starting to set up is this profile for why it's difficult, but you're going to see in a minute why it's so invaluable to make sure that you get the best staff that you can. Finding good campaign staffers burn out. I'm an exception in America because I've done campaigns for over 30 years. Most of my friends that ran campaigns, they went into the bureaucracy, they lobby, they went into consulting, they're making real money. I stayed and managed campaigns. I don't have a pension from that. It's hard. I'm 55, I have no pension. The United States doesn't come automatically. It's tough. I gave that up. Most people don't. So what happens is the old guys like me leave, the young people come in. Doesn't mean they're not talented, but they don't have 30 years of experience either. Okay? So it's difficult. Yet, bad campaign staff can kill a campaign. If campaign staff does not know how to schedule a candidate, does not know how to do research, does not know how to raise money, does not know how to budget, and not run you into the hole, does not know how to do policy, does not know how to do social media, does not know how to identify voters, how to target voters, does not know how to persuade voters, you can be the best candidate in the world and you're going to lose. How many of us know a candidate that lost? And you say, how did she lose? She's phenomenal. She probably is phenomenal. She probably had a bad team. She probably had a team that screwed up a lot, and nobody knew how to run a good team. All things being equal, I want to win. You win campaigns with the margins. Anything that can give me an edge. Good staff can give me an edge. So go out and get the best staff you can. Again, I'm going to run through these pretty quickly. You know all this stuff. Where do you get staff? A lot of times it could be from friends or family, workers from a candidate's business, law firms that are an attorney. Could be from colleges. You could go to parties, local, state, regional, city, national. Borrow them from elected officials. National parties or party operations oftentimes have a database of workers. Again, past campaign, bureaucracy. There's a lot of places to get them. But what's missing here? What have I not said? Is there a pool in Brazil called Campaign Workers Incorporated that you just go hire? No. So this is what you end up doing. Think of that. You're running a multi-million dollar business. And this is the way I'm getting my staff. It's tough. That's the way it is. There is no, in any country on earth that I know, a place where I could look in the yellow page and say, oh, where do I hire campaign staff? Oh, it's under campaign staff are us. And here's the number. Call them up and order a press secretary and a scheduler. No, you can't do it. This is the most important step you're going to take in a campaign. Because if you do this one wrong, campaign's going to lose. You got to hire the best. You got to give the best training. You got to make sure that they understand that they get one shot at winning and they're loyal and trustworthy and they're going to work the tail off. And that's why I do a professional campaign plan. That's why the plan that Marcos has says, here's how you set up every department in a campaign. It can vary based on culture, I get that. But basically, here's the responsibilities, here's the timetable, here's what you pay, here's how they're accountable. And every day, every week, the manager meets with the department head of that specific department in the campaign and says, are we hitting our targets? If not, you're in trouble, I'll replace you. Because we cannot afford to lose this. Most people in here probably won't go to that level or wouldn't. I hope you do not. I hope you do when you see where we're going with this. So what staff do you need in a campaign of any size? Normally, the first hire should be a manager. You'd be surprised how many campaigns don't do that. Oh, I'm a candidate, I'm really smart, I don't really need a manager. I'll hire my kid to schedule and my nephew will do, and I don't have a professional campaign. Okay? Normally you want the manager first. Why? You better have a manager that's good, talented, smart, that you can trust, that knows politics, that can stand up to you when you're wrong. I can't tell you how many times I've fought with our candidates. With my candidate. I was in the U.S. Senate one time, and my candidate, there were other senators in the room, and he was running, and we were talking about a very controversial issue. And in front of the other senators, and I was a staffer, campaign manager, but I was in his office, and he said, well, Steve, what do you think? And I said, with all due respect, Senator, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And everyone kind of took a step back, except the senator. He said, what do you mean it's the dumbest thing? I said, you asked my opinion. He said, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You vote that way, and I think you're going to lose your election. He said, no, I'm not. And he was in an argument. And the argument took place. It was over. They moved on. We're walking out of the Senate office. The staffer to the majority leader of the Senate turned to me and said, if I ever talked to my boss that way, he'd fire me. And I looked at her and I said, if I didn't talk to my boss that way, he'd fire me. He hired me to manage his campaign because he knew I would stand up. I would look him in the eye and say, you're going to lose if you do that. He didn't want somebody who would say, oh, you're the senator, you're the candidate. Oh, if you like it, you're the smartest human being on earth. You can do no wrong. Whatever you want, you do. It's not what I hired him. And I knew that. And he told me what he hired. He said, one of the reasons I want to hire you is I understand you have no problem standing up to candidates. I said, not when I think they're wrong. But think of it. That's tough to find. We all know candidates. It's hard to look a governor, a senator, somebody running for president in the eye and say, what are you doing? That's dumb. Don't do that. Instead, we tend to be, well, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, you're really smart. Don't tell them they're smart if they're dumb. Okay, you're not doing them any favor. So this person has to be somebody who's got some gravitas, has some experience, has the capacity to communicate. They're confident. They say, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten screaming matches. I don't mean to be unprofessional, but just where it got heated. But it was because, no, if we do that, you hired me to run this and to give you advice. Here's my advice. I may be wrong, but my butt's on the line here too. If you do this, we're going to lose. Candidate one time said, I told you this morning, I'm going to raise taxes. You're not? You're going to run on a platform raising taxes? What country are you coming from? I can't think of one where that's a good platform to run on. If you elect me, I'll take money right out of your pockets. I'll give you no benefits. No. You'll lose. We had an argument. No, I got to do it. Can't do it. Like I said, if you do that, I'm out. We had this discussion. We knew the budget was in trouble. You may have to raise taxes. And in this case, I kept saying, well, governor, if you did this, governor, if you did that, governor. And he said, why are you calling me governor? I'm not elected yet. And I said, exactly. He said, you're not the governor, quit acting. I said, governors raise taxes. Candidates do that. Okay? But that's what you need. You need somebody. Those are the moments where you could lose. If he'd have come out and held the press conference he wanted and said, I'm being honest with you, I have to raise your taxes. I have polling information. The public was in no mood for raising taxes. He lost it. He won. He lost that election. If you don't have someone who can stand up. So when you're hiring a manager, find that person. We interviewed a guy once. I was a consultant in a campaign. We interviewed a staffer to be the manager. Came with good credentials and had run some campaigns and won. And we're sitting there in the midst of the interview. The candidate's there. I'm there as a consultant and this potential manager. And every time the candidate would say something, he would say, wow, that's brilliant. He said, that's insightful. At one point he said, you're the most profound candidate I've ever heard. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, this is horrible. We finished the interview and the candidate looks at me and he said, I really liked it. And I said, you got me kidding. I said, I couldn't help but throw up. I mean, the guy kissed your butt more than, I don't know who kisses butts. I don't know. Whoever kisses butts, he just kissed yours more than that person. We're not going to name him the manager. My God, he would never tell you if he thought you were wrong. That's what you want, somebody that says, you're the most profound human being I've ever met. And I told him, I said, with all due respect, you're not the most profound human being I've ever met. Okay? So quit believing your own press clippings. That's a manager. Most important hire you'll ever make. They better have your back, they better be tough, they better be smart, they better be diplomatic, they better be good communicators, they better be able to look you in the eye and tell you when they think you're wrong. Normally, it's one of the highest paid staffers in your campaign, as they should be. They're running the show. Pay is very normally dependent on experience, overall campaign budget, responsibilities. What do you pay these guys? Pay the going rate, but I want to pay, if I'm going to get the best, I'm going to pay for it. It'll pay for itself if they make good decisions. Okay? So don't be afraid to look and pay this guy what they're worth. Okay? One of the things that I have my campaign manager do, and you should as a candidate, and I've not hired managers, I'd say, oh, you want to run a campaign? Write me a quick campaign plan, not the 250-page one. Give me a 25-page plan. How would you win this campaign? Half of them will walk away from the table. I ain't writing a plan. Well, then you're not running my campaign. I need to know you know what you're doing. And so I'll say, write me just an overview of the plan. Show me how are you going to message? How are you going to turn the vote on? What kind of research do you plan on doing? Give me a sense of your budget. Give me a sense how we're going to raise the money. If they can't do it, I don't want it. okay? In this plan, you should have all of these different departments. A section on deciding how to run. Should I run? Why shouldn't I? What are my pluses and minuses? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Do I understand what it takes? Is my family okay with this? Can I afford it personally? Can I raise the money? Okay, we talked about that a little bit earlier. I would argue almost for any of you, you can raise the money, but we have to figure out how. You can do it, but it's still, it's not that it's easy. I'm just saying you can do it. I want you to know a section on the district. Here's the city, the district, the state, the province, I don't care what it is. But I want my manager to show me he or she understands what our constituency is. I want to show me a budget. How do you determine what your budget is in the campaign, by the way? How do you know?
Benchmark.
What do you mean benchmark?
You verify previous campaigns.
Verify previous campaigns. If the previous campaign for governor of Sao Paulo spent $20 million US, okay, the next one's probably going to be in that ballpark. That's my benchmark. Maybe I have an inflation index, which we normally utilize, or maybe there's something particular to that campaign that was unique that we have to adjust for. But basically, you determine what your budget is based by what's spent. What's the operative term? If I say to you, draw up a budget, what's the term? It's not how much I can raise. What is it? It's how much I need to win. I had a candidate come to me one time and said, I want to run for U.S. Senate in the state of Maryland. I said, okay. He said, I'm a businessman. Okay. I said, what do you think about the money? Tell me about the money. He said, well, I thought of that. He said, I'm going to put $5 million of my own money, $5 million into the campaign. I said, $5 million, that's it? He said, yes, I can win at $5 million. I said, how did you come to that conclusion? He said, well, I'm a businessman. I know how to spend money frugally, and I think $5 million can win the race. And I said, but you're in the Washington, D.C. media market, the Baltimore media market. The Washington media market is the 6th most expensive media market in the United States. The Baltimore media market was the 22nd most expensive. In the Washington market alone, in Senate campaigns in the past in Maryland, they spent $10 million on TV alone. And I said, you're going to win the whole race. All expenditures for $5 million. He said, yes. I said, I'm not going to do your campaign. He needed to decide what you need to win, not what I think I can put in, not what I think I can raise. You have your manager do an assessment, and the way you do that is you line up every department of campaign, and you say, how much does it cost for staff over the entirety of the campaign? Staff, salaries, taxes, insurance, whatever you're paying. And that goes into a line item. How much money do we need to raise money? Right? The second most expensive expenditure in most campaigns is fundraising. Some places are different if it's public financing, but in most places it's expensive to raise money. How much is it going to cost to raise money? How much is it going to cost to do persuasion? Television, radio, billboards, signage. How much is it? You line up all the departments and you say, in order to run a campaign that's effective, that can win, we're going to get into budgeting tomorrow. Some more specifics, so I won't go into great detail now. But all these different categories, and you say, if I raise this much, I can win. Okay. Now I've got my marching orders. But I want to see that a manager knows how to do that. I don't want a manager that says, how much do we need? Well, I don't know, whatever we raise. No, wrong answer. We're going to talk about fundraising and expenditures of money tomorrow as well. How do you know when to spend money and when not? We're going to talk about that. Fundraising. How are you going to raise money? Well, we'll have events. Now I want to know. How are you going to raise it? Oh, we need to raise X number through events. We need to raise X amount of money through call time, candidate on the phone. We need to raise X amount over the internet. I want to know every category and what your goals are. How are we going to schedule a candidate? We have a section on scheduling. It's the most important department, I think, in the campaign. Why is scheduling so important? Time is not only everything, it is the most valuable thing. The candidate's time is gold. If I misuse that time, I screw the campaign. If I maximize that time, I win the campaign. So the scheduling office has to be disciplined and smart and aggressive and, literally it's a 24/7 office. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they've got to be in their talks. It is, I think, the most important office, other than the management itself in the campaign. We're going to talk more about that later. The press office. What are their goals? Who do they talk to? How do they know the members of the media? We got a section on that we're going to talk about in the next couple of days. Research, we talked a little bit about this morning. And in this case, I'm talking about research on a candidate, not survey research. Polls, focus groups, that's survey research. This is research. Are we going to research our candidate and our opponents? And are we going to be ready for anything they can throw at our candidate? Steve, you did drugs in college. Do I have an answer for you? Or do I lost. I might have lost the race in that minute. We were talking at lunch. I really believe there's 2 or 3 minutes, 2 or 3 days in a campaign. Everything else is equal. Campaign, neck to neck campaign. 2 or 3 days that the campaign will be one of those. It's how I handle those 2 or 3 days that determines whether I win or whether I lose. One of those could be that moment. Steve, what happened here? Here's some opposition research. You did drugs. You had an affair. You didn't pay your taxes. If I'm not ready to answer that with a believable, credible answer, because I did the research, and what happens in my research books, the research books will have all this research on me, and there'll be 50 questionable things. If you're a lawyer, there's probably 250, because every case you've ever tried is potentially one they could use against you. Who did you represent? Right? Guilt by association. If you're a businessman, you've got deals all over. I worked for a multi-millionaire businessman one time, and our research book was literally 1,000 pages long. So we had to look into every little business deal that he made to make sure there wasn't a problem. But we want to be able to say, and then we would pull out the big ones. If they come back and choose Steve with this, you were arrested, or you were arrested when you were 17 for breaking the windows. That's kind of an easy one. I was dumb. I was 17. I was an idiot. Okay. You know why they would say that? Because everybody went, yeah, when I was 17, I was an idiot too. Right? We all did dumb things. But what about you did drugs? What about you didn't pay your taxes? You better have an answer. Better have an answer. And it's when you don't that you go, well, I did pay my taxes. Damn, I didn't. I blurted it out. I didn't know what else to say. You always know what to say. You always know what to say. That's research. Messaging. Talked about messaging this morning. If I don't have a message, I want to know whether my campaign manager knows how to message. Every one of these should be a section of your campaign. Every one of them. And if you do that, you're going to win a campaign. In all the years I've run campaigns in America and around the world, I have never come across another campaign that didn't win. Ever. I don't know why. They'll have ideas, they may have a memo. Well, here's a 2-page paper on how we think we can win. It's a strategy paper, but it's not a comprehensive campaign plan. Do this and you'll win. Raps knows everything. And you should do. Consultants. Do you need a guy like me, a general consultant? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But we have a section that I think it's tomorrow where we'll talk about consultants. Tell me what consultants you think I need. Do we need a pollster? What should I pay? You know what to pay a pollster? We'll show you how. We'll show you what you should pay him. Should you pay him a monthly retainer? Should a pollster get a monthly retainer? Anybody in here a pollster? Do pollsters get monthly retainers? I'll do your polling, but I need $5,000 US a month retainer. I don't have to do a poll, but that's just for my advice. No, pollsters normally don't get retainers. They'll all ask for don't give it. Media consultant. What do media consultants ask for? Monthly retainers? They also want a percentage of the buy. Okay, you're going to put $1 million on TV. I want 15% of that buy. So it really costs me $1,150,000 US to put $1 million worth of TV on the air. That's what they ask for. They all ask for 15%. You can pay it if you want. I won't. I won't. I had a media consultant one time came in. He said, "I've got a." We knew he had interviewed to do our media, and he said, "I've got a contract. I'll bring it in." I said, "Don't bother. I got a contract." Which is another point. I'll draw the contract, not theirs. I'll have my attorneys do that. So they said, "Well, we don't normally do it that way." And I said, "Well, that's okay. That's the way I do it. I have a contract." So I said, okay, he came in and he said, well, Steve, we need 15% will buy, and we need, I don't remember what it was, $20,000 US a month for retainer. I said, well, okay, that's what you need, but here's what I'm offering. And I slid across the table and I said, it's $10,000 a month retainer, and it's 2% of the buy in the first $2 million and 3% after that. He said, 2 and 3%, he said, I've never negotiated a contract that way, my partners will not accept this. And I pulled the contract back and I said, God, that's too bad because we really wanted to hire you. But now we can't. He reached across to grab the contract, pulled it back. He said, well, let me at least check with my partners. So okay, yeah, check with your partners. So I went to the candidate and I said, you're going to get a call in a few minutes from the media consultant, and he's going to say that I'm a jerk, that I don't know how to design a contract, that I'm being unfair, and he's going to ask you to negotiate this contract. I said, if you do, I'll have to leave the campaign. Because if you undermine me, and he knows it, then everybody's going to see that I can be undermined, I have no authority, so I'll have to quit. But I said, if you stick to this 2 and 3%, I just saved you, and it's something like $350,000 US in the difference in the percentage-wise. He said, okay. Sure, and you knew it was going to happen. Sure enough, he gets a phone call. Mark, this is Frank. Say, I just left Steve. Whew, 2 and 3%. Have you seen this, Mark? Nobody will sign that contract. Mark said, Steve's my manager. You got a problem with the contract, you talk to him. Frank said, Mark, I've worked for you before. I love you, man. I love you, man. We're friends. I said, yes, we are friends, but Steve negotiates my contract. So, he hangs up. Frank calls me back. Said, Steve, this contract. I said, he said, no one will sign that contract, Steve. I said, Frank, I got 5 people to sign that contract this afternoon. Because they're going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars. You just want to make millions, and I don't want to pay them. So, again, I'll reiterate what I said this morning. If you don't want to sign it, I feel awful because I really want to work with you. But I'm going to get that contract signed today, whether you sign it or not. He signed the contract. Okay? That's what we're talking about. Somebody that can work with you. So I want to know that my manager knows how to do that. I want to know that they, and again, the RAPS has a plan, all that stuff, the negotiation stuff, that's what you do. That's what a professional campaign does. Policy. I talked earlier. How can I get you versed on policy? Here's simply what you do. You normally through survey research, you say, what's on the minds of the people? And you say, in Sao Paulo, what would it be? I keep using Sao Paulo because that's where I landed. And that's where a lot of the folks that's where RAPS, the folks are from. And then what would they say? Transportation, probably clearly. It took me 2 hours to come in from the airport the other day. I'm okay with that. I just left Nairobi and I left Dhaka and Jakarta in the last couple months, and your traffic's nothing compared to those guys. Actually, your traffic's bad, but they want to kill each other. I mean, they're bouncing around. But okay, but traffic. What else? Education, usually big. Jobs, pensions maybe. Violence, crimes, drugs. What else? Pollution. What else? We're up to about 6. What? Healthcare. How come we're not up to 156? How come we're not up to 200 issues? Because there aren't 200 issues that people care about on a day-to-day basis. So I need to get you conversant in 6 issues, or 8 issues. Now all of a sudden, it doesn't look so daunting, does it? You sit back and say, I don't want to be a candidate, but I don't want to embarrass myself. Embarrass myself, what do you mean? I don't know. There's a million issues out there. I don't know a million issues. And I can't tell you how many candidates I said, you don't have to know a million issues. I think you might have to know 8. We're going to get you conversant in 8. And then you get policy teams in each of those 8 areas. Experts on transportation. They could be civil engineers. They could be in the police force. They could be in government. Who builds the roads? Could be contractors. Tell me about this infrastructure. How would it eliminate traffic? What about the people in public transportation? And they'll say, here's what we're doing. Here's some options for what we could do. Here's what the costs are. And so now all of a sudden, and I do that in each of these 7 or 8 issue areas. And so now I do my first interview. I did this. We have a research book in each of these areas. And I'm a candidate now, I announce. The reporter says, Steve, what do you think about transportation? And I said, well, here's my position on transportation. Here's what we're spending currently now in Sao Paulo. Well, I go through it. Here's what they did 10 years ago. That didn't work. I think we should try X, Y, and Z. The reporter goes, wow, Jardick seems pretty versed on transportation. Well, let's see how good he is on healthcare. What are you going to do about healthcare? Well, healthcare is an interesting issue. Here's what we're spending right now. Here's what we've done. Here's what the current administration is doing, but that's not working. This piece is working. I keep that, but this one's not. I'm going to change it. They go, wow, this guy knows about healthcare. Okay, let's see if you get the trifecta. What about this issue? Education. Here's what we're doing in education. See what I'm saying? All of a sudden, I give a little bit of information, and they all think I'm a genius. I'm not a genius. I just know there's not a million issues out there. There's a half a dozen that I may have to know. Maybe there's 8 or 10, but there's not 50. Okay, and what do you do if you don't know? They throw one at you and you don't know. Well, Steve, what would you do about Medicare Part D for seniors over the age of 80? And you sit there and go, Medicare Part D? There is such a thing? Right? What do you say? I don't know. Sometimes that's a pretty good answer. I'm not certain of that. What do you ask me specifically? Oh, Medicare Part D over 80. Well, I'm not certain. Let me get back to you. You probably can't get away with that 8 times in a row, right? What do you think of this? I don't know. I'll get back to you. What about that one? I don't know. I'll get back to you. But you're not going to have to. If you're conversant on those 6 or 8 issues, you're gold. And on those ones you don't know, in the orders, and we're going to teach it in media training. There's a little technique called a flagging. Medicare Part D, well, let me tell you, I'm not entirely certain about that particular issue, but let me be real clear about what I would do about health care for the elderly. I transition to what I do know. And when the public hears it, studies show they don't even know I dodged the question. Oh, Medicare Part D for people over the age of 80. Well, it's a good question, and I'm not entirely sure where you're going with that, but let me be honest with you about what we're doing to healthcare here in Brazil. And I transition to my issue. Those are techniques I'm going to teach you tomorrow. Okay? All we're saying is policy, you don't have to fear policy. I'm not saying be stupid, right? You're going to have to work at it a little bit, but don't think, oh my God, I need to know all this. There's ways, simple ways that we can get you off that. Okay? I want my managers to know that. Social media and networking. We have a section on Saturday morning on this. It is the most stunning and I think exciting new tool in politics in the history of politics. If I asked you what is the most powerful element in politics in world history, what would the answer be? Money. Money has always been the dominant force in politics in world history, until today. Social networking doesn't really cost me. It hasn't trumped money yet. I still need money, but this thing is taking off like crazy. And man, the implications are unbelievable. I said earlier, and I said it at lunch, ask Mubarak where the social media worked. Remember when that, in Egypt, when that first hit, and he had comments, and the government had comments, this is just a bunch of kids in the street. There's no problem here. I'm the boss here. They can't hurt me here. And in a matter of weeks, he's in jail. Wow. Did those kids spend billions of dollars? No. They had social networking. They talked to each other and said, if you're pissed off, hit the streets. And went to the streets. Think of that. I don't know how all the million people or so got to the streets in Brazil, but I bet social networking was a part of it. But that's how they were communicating. Think of that power. If I had to pay to do that, to call those people, have a call center, call 1 million people, or 2 million to try to get 1 million out, it would cost me literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. They did it for free. We got a tool now, folks. You don't think we can compete with money? We can. So I want my manager to know about social networking. And if they don't know, tell me they don't know. But tell me you're going to hire somebody that does. Okay? Field operation. Those field and social media initially was considered a communication tool, and it still is, but it's as much a field tool as it is communication. It's how you rally people, it's how you turn voters. Barack Obama literally turned out and won the early voting program in the United States entirely through Facebook. He had contests on Facebook to say, you go vote early, take a picture of yourself voting early, put it up on your Facebook page, and challenge all of your friends to go vote, and tell them when they've all voted, you're going to have a party. And a lot of these were young people, and a majority voted, hey, if I vote, he's going to have a kegger, I'm going to vote. Right? He voted millions of people that way. Didn't spend a dime. Didn't spend a dime. So field now is becoming really intertwined with social media, and we're going to talk about that on Saturday. Voter targeting. Do they know how to target a voter? Do they know how to determine my base vote, my opponent's base vote, and most importantly, where is that persuadable voter, that voter that's on the fence, that voter that's leaning but not solid? I want that voter. If I can identify that voter, I can target them, I can find out what messages move them, I can move that message to them, and I can get them. That's what I want. You figure that out. If he shows or she shows me they know how to do it, it's real easy. It's really easy. It's in the field plan. Again, I've got, look at all the things we're asking them to do, but look at if you do these things. I guarantee your opponents aren't doing half of these things. They're just not doing it. They don't do them in the United States, where everybody in the United States thinks they're so smart at politics. Oh, half the campaigns don't do this stuff. Canvass voters, coordinate activities, all kinds of, I want to show, and then ultimately show me how you're going to get the vote out. What's the vote? How many votes do we need to win this thing? What are you basing that on? Okay, past performance, past history, that's part of it. Show me that you understand it. If your manager can do that and hand you that plan, you're going to win a lot of races. And again, to be clear, I would, if you show me an opponent that has a book like that, I'd be willing to bet my house. They don't do it. I mean, think of it, 250, 300-page books. That's not easy to do. And half the time, they're 25-year-old kids writing them. They don't have the experience to do it. But if you do it, you're going to win a lot of races. All right, second staffer to hire normally, fundraiser. Who's going to raise the money? They might, by the way, help write the campaign budget. If you hire somebody that's experienced in fundraising. And by the way, on the last point on the manager, normally try to get a manager that has some experience under his or her belt, has won some races. I shouldn't pick on him. There's a consultant, a manager in the United States who ran, he's now retired, kind of imposed retirement. He ran 8 different presidential races and lost them all. I wouldn't hire that guy tonight, okay? Nothing against them. I understand that managers aren't, I don't know that I should mention Bob Short's name, but in fairness to Bob, he's a smart guy. And to lose a race or two, that happens in politics. But at some point when you lose 8, you gotta go, maybe you're just snake bit and it was all somebody else's fault, but I gotta go in a different direction. Okay? And I mean that generally. I think Trump's one of the smartest political minds, but for some reason, the guy couldn't win a race. If I were running for president, I'd probably look somewhere else, just because I gotta find somebody that's got a track record who can win. Not every race necessarily, but shows me they know how to win. So fundraising. They raise the money needed to win. They multitask all the different fundraising activities. Obviously, they have to be salespeople. They're carrying the message for why people should donate to your campaign. So they have to be personable and disciplined and presentable. They have to be good at dealing with wealthy people. Okay? Some of you are probably extremely wealthy, and with all due respect, you're hard to deal with sometimes. All right? Wealthy people tend to be pampered a little bit. So you have to treat them with respect. You have to pamper them a little bit. Well, this person better know how to do that. They better not try to come in Bigfoot. Well, you better give money. We need a check. They're not used to being talked to that way. Right? You have to show them deference. You have to show them respect. It's an art, but it's true. We in presidential campaigns in America, we'll do retreats where we'll bring in 150 very wealthy donors to a weekend retreat. We'll wine and dine and try to get them to give more money. And we'll have bands. We'll bring in big name, music band. We'll do it at, fancy golf. We'll do whatever it is to make them happy. We're going to pamper. Why? Because we're trying to get money out of them. And and they know it, but they still want to be pampered. They still want to be respected. These people have to know how to do it. They have to stick to a timetable. When you set fundraising goals, you better hit them. We talk about budgeting tomorrow, I guess it's tomorrow. We're going to talk about a floor and a ceiling budget, and we're going to talk about a budget that's set on a calendar. I have to raise certain amounts of money in certain amounts of time. And if I don't, I'm in trouble. A floor budget and a ceiling budget. Your floor budget says the minimum amount I need to win. What is that amount? And I have to hit those targets, or by definition, I'm going to lose the race. So if I fall short in one area, maybe in call time this week, I fell $20,000 US short, I got to make it up somewhere else. I cannot fall below my floor budget. We're going to get into that tomorrow. But the point is, this person has to stick to those. We're down a little bit on this budget, we've got to make it up somewhere else, so we need more call time. We have to add an event. We have to do another email solicitation, whatever it is. Obviously all this is determined in the campaign finance laws or jurisdictions of the country. So whatever it is in Brazil, look at those laws, make sure that you're raising money appropriately, if there's limits, whatever it is. But the fundraiser normally in campaigns that aren't publicly financed, they're arguably the second most important, or the third if you look at scheduling, but clearly one of the absolute key departments. If you don't have the money, you're not going to win. So they better be good and disciplined and have good direction, or you're in trouble. Who's the best fundraiser in the campaign? Who's the best fundraiser? The finance director? What's that? The person who gets the most money. Who normally gets the most money in a campaign? Who? The candidate. Anyways, this becomes a support staff. The candidate raises money. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. They do call time, they get a call sheet. Here's the information on Steve Jordan. Okay, so they get a call sheet, has my name, has my wife's name, Brenda. Steve has 3 kids, John, Ethan, and Alex. Here's their age. 2 of them are in this college, one of them is now a teacher doing this. Steve makes X amount of money. Steve has a summer home here. Steve just won the bowling tournament. I don't know what Steve just won. All as much information as you can find. And that sheet gets put in front of the candidate. Candidate picks up the phone. Hey, Steve. Candidate doesn't really know me. He knows that I normally give $10,000 to a campaign. Because in the United States, it's public information. If it is in Brazil, get it. If it's not, find it. Find candidates who raise money and say, how much does Steve give? And you go through the donor list. I know Steve gives 10 grand. Hey, Steve, how you doing? Hey, how's Brenda? Thinking, you don't know my wife. Sounds like he did. Right? It's on the call sheet. How's Brenda? She's good. She's good. Hey, I understand you just had surgery. You okay? Yeah, no, just a little knee thing. But geez, I hardly know that. Because the staffer did their homework and Googled me and found out any piece of information they could to make the candidate look smarter. Oh, so the knee's doing good. Oh, hey, and I see your son just made the dean's list at college. Wow, you must be proud. Oh, yeah. Chip off the old block. He's smart like an old man. Right? All they're doing is showing that they care, showing a little love. And then comes the ask. Hey, Steve, I'm running for president here in Brazil. I need $10,000. Although if they knew I gave 10, you'd probably ask for 20. If you know their previous amount given was 10, why do you ask for more? Why don't I just ask for 10? They might give less. You never leave money on the table. Steve gives 10, I'll try to get 20. I'm not going to ask for 100. I don't want to insult them, right? Give me 100. I don't have 100. 20, I might be able to spend. Oh, they said 20, I can't do 20. God, Steve, you've been such a great donor, such a good friend. I really need 20. At least if you and Brenda, your lovely wife, could do 15, that'd be wonderful. All right, I'll do 15. That's what a fundraiser is. They put all that information together. Candidate doesn't know that stuff. It's called call sheet. It's called call time. It's one of the foremost ways to raise money anywhere in the world. Why? Because people love to hear from a candidate. Why do they love to hear from a candidate? They feel special. Candidates tend to be celebrities. Right? Oh, the former governor called me. He's running for president. I took that call. Hello, governor. send you a check. And what happens? I hang up the phone, what do? I call somebody. Yeah, I was just talking to the governor earlier, and I said, Governor, are you fooled? You know, I'm a friend of the governor. Right? People want it. That's what I was talking about earlier when you say I can't raise the money. There's a group of people out there that love to give money. Because they have it. And they may want to influence a cause, or they just may do it for their ego. I want to say, I went to a reception, had my picture taken with the governor, with the president, with the candidates up on my wall. So when people come to my house, oh wow, you know President Jardine? Oh yeah, we're close, we're tight. No, you're not. You paid $10,000, get your picture taken with it. Blah, blah. Thousands of people want to do that. Go get it. Go find it. This office is the one that coordinates that. Okay? But the best fundraiser is the candidate. If I'm a staffer and I call and I say, yeah, I'm Steve Jardine with the Jones campaign for president, oh, tell him I'm not here. Right? Tell him I'm not here. I don't talk to some staffer. Oh, it's former Governor Jardine. Oh, Governor! I take that call. Candidate's the best fundraiser. Use the candidate. Use the candidate to raise money. If you're a candidate, don't be lazy. Can't tell you how many candidates I work for who said, I hate raising money. I know you do, but you have to. I did a U.S. Senate campaign once, and the candidate said, okay, I'm going to do this, but I have two rules. One, I don't like to campaign, and two, I don't like to raise money. What are you running for public office for? That's what you do, is you campaign and you raise money. He said, well, I don't like to do either one. And I said, well, then I'm not going to do your campaign because you can't win, and I think you can win. He said, well, I'll try. I'll do a little bit of call time, I'll do a little bit of campaign. And we tried it. Grudgingly, he did okay. We ended up winning the race, but you got to do it. You got to do it. And the candidate's the best person to raise. Okay, so the lead fundraiser normally becomes the manager of the candidate's time. The lead fundraiser will go to the scheduling office and say, okay, I need X number of events, I need X number of hours call time for the candidate to raise our money. Okay, when you don't do this, you fall short. I was with some people yesterday who said, and I won't name the candidate, who said this candidate doesn't like to raise money, he finds it offensive, so he said he would just fund his own campaign. If you can do that, fine, but very often they don't fund their own campaign. And so when they say, I don't like to do it, nobody likes to do it. What's the best way to overcome this idea that when a candidate says, I don't like to raise money? Tell them, it's not, you're not raising it for you. What do you mean, I don't like to? You're raising for the cause. You want to get elected to change Brazil. If you think you're doing it for yourself, you're going to be pretty poor. Oh, somebody told me no, I'm depressed. No, somebody tells me no, you have to do this. We cannot change Brazil unless I get this money so that I can get elected and I now can change the face of this country, can change public policy. Do it for the people. Give the money essentially to the people, not to me. Psychologically, it actually works. Okay? All right. So the fundraiser does the call time we talked about, sets up fundraising events, donor goals, collects checks. Fundraisers should be hired early. Why? You gotta have money. And you got very often have to have more money at the end. So I gotta raise a disproportionate money at the beginning, stockpile until the end. When most of your money, about 70% of campaign money, of all money raised, about 70% is spent the last 10 days of the election. Okay? I mean, the vast majority goes to those efforts to get the vote out, last minute communications, those things. Give or take, depending on the country. But the point is, most of the money is spent very late. So I need to raise money early and stockpile until the end. Again, I won't go into all these, but very normally, you want the fundraisers to be on staff and salary. A lot of fundraisers will ask for a percentage. It's not a good thing. If it's a $20 million campaign and they want 15%, you're spending a lot of money to raise that $20 million. Okay, I can pay them $100,000 US dollars a year or $15,000 US dollars a month and save myself $1.5 million. So normally you want them to be salary. Okay, we talked about this earlier. Fundraising costs almost in any country is one of the most expensive line items in the campaign. It costs money to raise it. Okay, so make sure you budget accordingly. Okay, talking about being well paid, fundraisers, because it's so important, they may be one of your top staffers when it comes to salary. So again, depending on the wage scale in the nation, If the manager is making, and again, I'll stay with US dollars, if the manager is making 15,000 US dollars a month in a $20 million campaign, the finance director might be making 10 or 15,000 dollars a month too. Okay, to raise that kind of money, you're going to pay the prevailing wage scale for that position. But again, it pays for itself if you get somebody that knows what they're doing. I left direct mail fundraising on here. This one is a dying form of fundraising, mostly because it's expensive to do direct mail. But normally, here's the caveat, the reason I left on, and then we'll segue into website fundraising. Normally, you want small donors in your campaign. Small donors come from direct mail programs and web fundraising. Barack Obama raised $500 million of his last campaign, $500 million out of about $1.2 billion on the internet. It's stunning. The average contribution was $38. Okay? Why do you want small donors? What's that?
You build legitimacy of society.
I'm sorry.
You build legitimacy of society.
Yeah, you build legitimacy. You
Now you
build.
don't depend on the money of a big donor.
Okay, it shows I'm not depending on big donors. Candidates, I don't want to be sold out, right? I'm not beholden to big donors. Barack Obama said I raised $500 million for the little guy. Right? Why else do I want? Even if somebody gives you $1, a small amount, why do I want that? What do studies show? Anybody in here give $1, give a small amount, just a little bit to a candidate, what happens? You're committed?
You know how many people are supporting you.
Okay, some of it is, I'm building these numbers, this list, that's part of it. People are committed. Studies show that if somebody gives you any amount of money, any amount, the most smallest denomination of money, they're bought in. They'll put signs up, they'll volunteer, they'll work, they'll go to rallies. When somebody says, Steve Jarding's a jerk, and they gave me a penny, they're more apt to say, no, he's not a jerk, he's a good guy. Because if they allow you to say I'm a jerk, they look like a jerk because they gave me money. Right? Studies show whenever somebody gives a contribution, you got it. They will do many, many other things. So a lot of times in small donor programs, Barack Obama's small donor programs not only raised him $500 million, $500 million. These were his activists. These were the people that were going neighbor to neighbor. These were the people that were showing up at the rallies. These were the people who were doing early voting. These were the people who were bought in. So the idea, a lot of times, the reason I stress this, a lot of campaigns will say, well, let's just go after the big donors. It's easier to get one contribution of $1 million than it is to get 1 million contributions of $1. Well, that's true, one check as opposed to 1 million. But I want those 1 million workers. I want those 1 million people bought in, putting signs, stickers on their cars, and signs in their windows. And studies show that you should go after this. Small donors are huge. Too often we overlook it. Particularly, I think it's my understanding in Brazil there's no limits, right?
No, 5% of person.
Oh, or 5% of the income. Somebody's told me 10%. Is it 5%? Okay, but pretty legitimate, you know.
That's okay, he's right.
10% para pessoas físicas e 2% para pessoas jurídicas. Empresas 2%, pessoas físicas 10%.
Okay. All right. But even that, see, that's a pretty big amount, right? For most people, that's not insignificant parts of their income. So the idea that I'm going to get small donors is a pretty big deal. It's easy to ignore. Well, no, I'm just going to go for the people that can give big amounts. I'm not saying don't absolutely go for the big amounts. But the other thing this does, let's say I get $1 million from one candidate or from one donor, and $1 from $1 million. Now I can say, I raised $2 million in my campaign. What was the average contribution? $1 million from one, $1 million from one candidate, 1 million people who gave $1 each. $2. So I can say my average campaign contribution was $2. I'm a man of the people. Please, you got $1 million from one guy, right? But it allows me to say, I'm not beholden to the big interests. Look at all my donors. Don't think that's not insignificant in a campaign where you're trying to be a candidate with people. You're going to have to raise big dollars a lot of times to win or big money, depending on the denomination of the country you're in. but you still want the small windows. And on top of it, there's volume. All right. Scheduling. Again, arguably this is the most important staffer next to the manager. And again, we talked about it. Why? Because the candidate's time is the most valuable asset in a campaign. If you misuse their time, you're going to lose the race. If you maximize the candidate's time, you're likely to win the race. And we have a section on this, so I'm not going to go through in great detail. We'll go into much more detail when we get to it. But the manager's time, or excuse me, the candidate's time is in such demand. Department heads need their time. Oh, I'm in the field. I need the candidate to show up at a rally. I need the candidate to go to this event and meet with this party leader or this potential candidate. Oh, the press office says I need the candidate to do an interview, to do an editorial board. I need the candidate to do a media call. And then every department has needs. Policy department, I need the candidate to go over these policy books so he or she's versed on these 5 or 6 issues. We need 3 hours today to do that, or next week to do that. Every department comes in and says, I need something. Fundraising says, I've got to do 15 events every week from here on out. So I need 2 hours every night, 5 nights a week. I need 5 lunches a week for fundraising. I need 5 breakfasts a week. That time is whittled away from the demands. And that's before the outside world comes in and says, I need the candidate for this. So the demands are unbelievable. At any given campaign for president or governor or mayor of a big city, there could be 20 events vying for 1 hour from candidate time. Not enough. So making the right decision, how are you spending the time? And we're going to talk about how do you determine where the candidate should spend his or her time. We're going to talk about that tomorrow whenever we get to scheduling. I think it's tomorrow. There's a formula that you can use to determine how much time you spend. I'm running for president of Brazil. How do I know how much time I should spend in Rio versus Sao Paulo versus the rural areas or whatever? If I ask most people say, I'm not sure exactly. But there's a pretty simple formula. We're going to get into that formula. Okay? Okay, so it's one of the toughest jobs in the campaign, mainly because they have to say no. Right? 20 people want me for this hour. I have to say yes to 1 and no to 19. You don't think that's tough? Oh, the candidate would love to do your event, he just can't today. Oh, she would love to come, but she's booked that hour. That's hard. You don't want them to hang up the phone and be mad at you, so you have to be diplomatic. You have to let her know the candidate loves you. Okay? And maybe you try to reschedule, maybe there's a lot of tricks you can use, but this is important. All right? It's obviously, I mentioned, very demanding. You're virtually on call all the time. My schedulers and my campaigns have to be at the office 2 hours ahead of the schedule. So if the schedule begins at 6 in the morning, they have to be there at 4 in the morning just to make sure the driver showed up, the body person showed up, the weather didn't change, so, or there's construction in the highway, or there's an accident, or whatever it is, they got to show and make sure that the schedule's been around. They tend to be in the office long after the candidate's put to bed. They're putting the final touches on the next day's schedule, and the next day, and the next day. It's a very demanding position. Most candidates I have found anywhere in the world, America included, are not scheduled very well. They waste a lot of time. They do things that don't maximize their time. They have a lot of idle time. They're in a car driving for 3 hours and they don't make a phone call. They're in a car driving themselves when they've only had 4 hours of sleep. All right? There's a lot of things that schedulers do improperly because they don't know how to schedule. We're going to go through those. Okay, the scheduler must have a great relationship with the manager. Why?
Microfone, por favor. Microfone.
I will speak in português, ok? Porque o cara que faz o cronograma tem que programar o cronograma de acordo com a sequência necessária para o desenvolvimento das atividades da campanha. Oh, sorry. Because of the sequencing of the activities of the campaign, the manager depends a lot on the schedule to have the right sequencing and keep the effect on the
Absolutely. And that's certainly part of it. There's no question about it. But great relationship with the manager, because here's what happens. Any of you who work for candidates, you know this. The candidate, I come to the candidate and I say, hey, you should be at this event. A week from tonight, there's going to be 10,000 people there. And you call this, who do you call the scheduler? Oh, hey, Steve, you're the scheduler. Hey, there's this event a week from Friday night. There's going to be 10,000 people. I need to be there. What's the scheduler do? What's the scheduler do? Does the scheduler say yes? It's hard to say no to the candidate. The scheduler in my scheduling office says, did you talk to Steve about this? No, I'm the candidate, I don't have to talk to Jordan. I said put it in the schedule. Well, if I put it in the schedule and I talk to Steve, he'll fire me. If you don't put it in the schedule, I'll fire you. How do you want to be that schedule? I have to have that relationship because the scheduler needs to say, no, candidate, I won't put it on the schedule. You know the rules, you got to talk to Jordan. And if the candidate says, I'm going to fire you, the candidate says, Jordan, fire the scheduler. So I'm not going to fire the scheduler. Because you said put something in the schedule, you know the rules, you can't put something in the schedule. We make schedules based on where we need to be, where the money is, where the media markets are. We don't change that schedule because somebody talked to you and said change it. You know the rules. If you want to fire the scheduler, fire my butt, I'll take the whole crew with me. You either stick by the damn plan or you go it on your own and you're going to lose. I've said that to candidates. Because you have to. You can't mess with this. This schedule is what makes this thing work. And it's based on a plan. Again, we're going to talk about it. I know I need to be in Sao Paulo 8 times this month. I know I need to be, when I'm in Sao Paulo, I need to do 14 fundraisers to raise X number of amount of money. I know I need to do X number of media events. If I move that, if I change that every day because you call in, our schedule goes to top. It doesn't work. I know I need to be in Rio so many days. I know I need to be in this part of the country. I know I need to be here. You can't just call and change it. It screws the whole thing up. And you bought off the plan. When I mentioned all those campaign departments, when my manager writes that plan, I take it to the candidate and I say, here's the plan. Look at it, read it. You got to buy off it. Invariably, they'll look at it, tweak this, tweak that, but they say, okay, that's our plan. Now, when they say change the schedule, I say, you read the plan. You can't change that. Well, I should be here. No, we're going to be there 2 weeks from now, and they have 20,000 people. This guy you talked to said 10,000. That same event last year had 10 people. He said 10,000 because he wants you there. He's not looking out for your best interest. We are. So knock it off. Don't change the schedule. Okay? All right. Again, we'll get into that detail tomorrow. Again, the type of person, maybe it's an existing secretary, maybe it's somebody that knows the candidate well. Be careful with family. A lot of times candidates say, oh, my daughter's really smart, my son's really bright, I'll have them be the scheduler. What's the problem with that? Their loyalties to the candidate, not to the manager. Yeah, hi Dad, it's Steve. How come I'm not at this event? There's 10,000 people. Okay, Dad, I'll put you down. Now the manager comes in and says, what are you doing? You put him down, you know it. What, are you going to yell at the manager's kid? Kid calls and says, Steve's a jerk, fire him. Right, so be careful. Doesn't mean family can't be good. Sometimes they can be terrific because they have great loyalties and trust, but they can also be problematic. But just the bottom line is make sure that they're tough, they're diplomatic, they're pleasant, they're hardworking, they're organized, they're detail-oriented, they're unflappable. I did a campaign once where I started the campaign when the candidate had the schedule before I started, and she was terrific. But I noticed the first week I was as manager, she would go into the candidate's office every day to go over the schedule, and every day, for 5 days running, she came out crying. And finally, I went into her office, I closed the door, and I said, what's going on? And she knew what I was talking about, but she was still shaken up. She said, well, he's really particular about his schedule, and I should have done this, and I didn't, and I said, well, and it was a little thing. And I said, well, why are you crying? She said, well, because I want to be a good scheduler. And I said, you are a good scheduler. I said, do you really want to do this in the campaign? Because if you don't, we'll move you to another position. But if you want to be a good scheduler, I'll help train you to be a good scheduler. But don't you ever let him talk to you that way. If he does, you come to me. Then I went into the candidate's office. And I said, don't you ever talk to her or anybody else on this staff that way. If you do, I'll quit and I'll take it with me. And you'll have a bad story. She is working her tail off 18 hours a day. She loves you to death. She can do anything for you. And that's the way you treat her. So if you got a problem with the schedule, you come to me. I'll go to her and I'll get the schedule right. You don't talk to the staff that way. You come to me. That's what I'm paid for. You want to yell at somebody, yell at me. I may yell back occasionally, Or I may say, you're right. We screwed that up, that won't happen again. But don't you do that to the staff. Once the staff knew I had your back, life was good. Once the candidate knew that he could not go to the staff and say, you do this, you do that, it had to come through me, life was good. If you lose that kind of control, campaign's over. Campaign's over. All right. Body person. Do campaigns in Brazil have body person, somebody that's with the candidate full time, a staffer that just kind of takes care of their whatever needs arise? What's that?
Not one person, one or two persons.
Well, yeah, sometimes you'll rotate people because it's a demanding job. You know,
That's a good thing.
yeah, well, okay, you have too many, all right. But normally you want somebody with the candidate full time, okay? You want them with them, normally it's called a body person. They're with them, they're audio taping when they make public statements. They're taking business cards from people. They're taking photographs. They're the eyes and the ears. Was the candidate late today? Why were they late? We have to adjust the schedule if that's the case. The candidate was tired today. We're not giving the candidate enough sleep. They have to be honest about the speeches. We had a body person once. I called him about 5 days ago after we started every day. Oh, the candidate was great. Really, the candidate was great again today, but nothing, oh no, the candidate was terrific. Finally, I called him in and I said, the candidate's never terrific. Okay, candidate's human, the candidate screws up. If all you're going to do is tell me they're terrific, I get no feedback. I can't make it better if all you do is kiss his butt and say he's terrific. So be honest with me. If he's terrific, say so. But if he's awful, say so. Okay? So this person becomes the eyes and ears of the campaign. It's one of the most valuable staffers in the campaign. I, as a manager, need to know what's working and what isn't in the row. The scheduler needs to know, were they on time? Did we get the candidate in the back door to avoid the crowd? Went out the front door, the crowd kept him, tied him up, made him an hour late. Okay? I need to know every detail. Body person gives me that. Okay? They are, again, should be hired early. Very normally in campaigns, when you have problems, it's early in the campaign. My message isn't as good, my team isn't as solid, the campaign organization's not running well, that's when I screw up. My body person makes sure we find out what those problems are and we eliminate them. Because the candidate won't always see them. Or the candidate may be skewed for some other reason. The candidate has to be a candidate. This is the staffer that tells the campaign what's working and what isn't. Okay. Again, I keep them early. They normally are with the candidate. Again, they pick the candidate up, they get them up in the morning, they give them the press clips, they do whatever, they put them to bed at night, and they have anything from writing letters to doing a brain dump to the campaign. Here's what worked today, here's what did. A very demanding job. Okay? My first job in politics was a body guy, and I love it. Because you're with the candidate, you see everything. There's nothing more exciting. You go to every event, you go to every fundraiser. When they get wine and dine, you get wine and dine. It's pretty cool. When a lot of times you're young. I was 19 when I was a body person. Life was pretty good. Okay? But it was hugely important, and the responsibility was great. All right. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on some of these. This one is kind of self-evident. When you open your office, you better be professional. I better have a receptionist that's there, somebody that answers the phone, somebody that is there to open the mail, somebody that's there to make sure this thing works. Okay? Too often it doesn't happen. I can't tell you how many campaign offices you walk in and there's nobody there. Right? The volunteers, you got volunteers walking in saying, hey, I want to help Steve in his campaign. No, we don't have anything for you to do right now. And they turn and walk away. Worst thing can happen with volunteers is telling you have nothing for them to do. Okay, so receptionist, office director, volunteer coordinator, you need those positions in the campaign. Think of what we're compiling here. We're starting to get a pretty professional list of people, if you're in a campaign of any size, that are very specialized in their responsibilities. A lot of your campaigns may not have this. If they don't, you're making a mistake. And yeah, these are things, this is pretty universal anywhere in the world. Okay? Might be a different title for people, some of the responsibilities might be different, but basically, they might be assigned differently, but basically these are the tasks that need to be covered. And so you need these staff. Okay. Research, self and opposition. We talked a bit about this, so I won't go into great detail. Very normally, there's two ways to do this. You can hire a research consultant. Does Brazil, I know you mentioned earlier, don't necessarily do a lot of research, self and opposition. Does Brazil have professional firms that do candidate research? They do? Okay. Check those out if that's the way you want to go. I like my researchers in-house. Even if they're not quote-unquote professional, they haven't done it for a living, I can train them as to what to look for. But I want them in-house because they're accountable to me. When you hire a professional firm, a lot of times they'll do the campaign book. It takes them 2 or 3 months to do all that research. They hand you the book, and they're gone. I don't want them to be gone. I want them there. Because they know that research better than anybody. And if something comes up out of that research book, I want their institutional memory. And if they're off doing 8 other campaigns now, that's a problem. So I normally want my researcher in-house. And again, these folks research everything. They research everything. They know, we had a case one time where we had an opponent, a U.S. Senator, who put a ribbon on his lapel, and he held a press conference and said, this ribbon represents that I'm drug-free. He said, I've never done drugs, I have 3 little girls, I want them to have an example, they know their father hasn't done drugs. The reason he did that press conference is he knew my candidate had done drugs, and he wanted to draw the contrast. Okay? There was a problem. In our research, though, we found out, we went through his high school and college yearbooks, and I don't know if they have such a thing here, you go to the university, they do the picture books of the, okay, well they do in the United States, they're called yearbooks. There was a picture in the life section of the yearbook of one of the yearbook staffers went to fraternity houses and sorority houses and took pictures of student life. One of the pictures in the background, you can see 3 guys sitting on a couch with a coffee table with, I don't know if they have such a thing here, I guess if they do, a bong, which you smoke marijuana out of. It's a bottle, whatever. Well, guess who had smoke coming out of his mouth? The bong sitting in front of him, with long hair, our opponent, the U.S. Senator. The guy that said, I'm drug-free, I've never done them, I want to be an example. So he held a press conference and said, I'm drug-free. We had that picture, we didn't necessarily intend to use it until he said he'd never done drugs. We slipped it to a reporter and said, there's your boy who's never done drugs. Reporter calls me and says, I have a photo here, it looks like it's you. At the university, you're sitting at a couch, smoke coming out of your mouth, a bong sitting in front of you. What was smoking in the bong? Camel dung or marijuana? Caught him in a lie. He lost. Okay? Research is big. I said it earlier, I'll repeat it. Every campaign I've ever done, we want most of the research did. Something like that. One little piece of information, bam. We caught the U.S. Senator lying, his race was over. He had to say, well, okay, I used to do drugs, but I don't do them now. No, you held a press conference, said you didn't do it, I'm sorry. Right? He lost. Okay. Policy director. We talked about this, so I won't go into detail. Look at all these in your notes and look at the descriptions. You should have these. We talked about creating the books, and so I won't go into the detail, but policy director to determine what are the issues in the campaign, and let's do the research to make sure that we get our candidate at least conversant, not expert, conversant on the issues. Okay? And I talked about policy committees in the books, the policy books. The one thing I would mention on this, make sure you have a strict timetable. Don't let this policy stuff drag into months and months. Talk about winning in the off year. Do this in the off year. Get your candidate up to speed early so he or she can roll this stuff. So by the time people are paying attention and the media is paying attention, they sound like an expert. Just like I was saying earlier, what's your position on transportation? See, bam, it's this. What's on healthcare? Bam, it's that. What's it here? Bam. And they go, wow, this guy's good. No, I'm not. I'm not. I just know 6 issues. Right? But that's what you want to do. The other thing I would mention, a lot of times the policy director is the researcher on our debate team. On our debate team. Okay? They will, in debates very often are turning points in campaigns. Do they debate a lot in Brazil, the candidates? Like presidential or gubernatorial?
I mean, is it working now? Yeah, they debate a lot when the race is close, you know, when it's a tight race, but when it's like a race where the incumbent is too far ahead, usually he doesn't go to the debate.
Right, and that's, by the way, normal. If the race is I'm way ahead, and I'm the incumbent, I ain't debate. I'm not going to give my opponent the chance to embarrass me, or the chance for me to say something stupid. Close race, I have to debate. Very normally the policy director, because they know the policy, they're the ones that are doing debate training. I do debate training at Harvard. We do a mock presidential debate every semester, and that's one of the things I do. We have a section on debates here. Because debates are very important. It's the one place where undecided voters make up their minds more than any other place in the campaign is in a debate. And studies show that, and so debates, the undecided voters, that's how I win or lose. So I better be prepared. We train people not to lose debates. We don't train people to win debates. It's almost impossible to win a debate. It's easy to lose, and we'll get into that when we get into debates. Okay, social media and web page. Again, we talked about this. I have a section on this with the field, so I won't go into great detail, other than I've said it already several times. This one's a big one, folks. And by the way, for people that are just saying we want to try to rise up, this may be the vehicle that gets you there. For those that are incumbents, this may be the vehicle that holds you there. Okay, so don't dismiss this. This idea that you can reach these people in all these different Facebook, through blogs, LinkedIn, Twitter accounts, all these different vehicles for reaching out to people. You should maximize them all and have a plan to do it. All right, and again, I'm going to go through this more on Saturday when I get to the field, but you'll see all the different tasks that social media and web directors have. Okay, press secretary, again, this deals with the earned media, not paid media. They don't do the TV ads, they don't do the radio ads. They deal with the press. Okay? Radio, television, newspaper. They often are the voice of the campaign. Okay? In my campaigns, only 3 people can talk to the media: candidate, manager, and the press secretary. Why is that? Avoid risk. Press secretary is trained to talk to the media. Candidate better be able to talk to the media. Manager hopefully is trained. My policy director is not trained to talk to the media. The media may say, oh, policy director. They ask for things the policy director gives too much because they don't know when to shut up. Press secretary does. Right? I want as few people as possible to talk to the media. My press secretary controls it. Any media request that comes into the campaign goes to that office. Not to the scheduler, not to the manager, goes to that office. Then that person takes it to the scheduler and says, the New York Times wants to interview Steve for a half hour on Friday on this topic. We run it by, everybody agrees, then we put on the schedule. Okay? But the press office takes it. They write daily press releases. They essentially are doing kind of the messaging of the campaign, the internal messaging, not the paid messaging necessarily, but the internal press release, radio feeds, whatever it is. So they have to be on top of the message. They have to work well with the policy office. They work well with the manager. My rules in campaigns, when somebody calls and says, I want to talk to you, you're the press secretary on the record, my rule is I have to say, I'm on the other line, I'll get back to you. What do you want to talk about? Oh, you want to talk about the transportation policy of the candidate, anything in particular? Oh, you think he's wrong on this issue? I'll get back to you. Then they hang up, they come into me, we bring the policy director in, and we say, how are we going to answer this? I don't want to screw that up. If the press secretary just says, oh, well, here's what our position is. What if it changed? I want the sounding board, the department heads to say, are we all on the same page? Then they can call back and say, hey, sorry, I was just finishing a call. Here's our position on transportation. Okay? Again, I won't go through all these, but look at all the responsibilities. What I'm hoping you see in here, and we're about done with this, these are the major department heads in your campaign. I know we're about out of time. But what I'm hoping you see is these are really professional departments. If you want to win a campaign of any size, you should have highly trained professionals in each of these department areas. Scheduling, research, press, policy, field, social media. They're all important. Any one of them could win or lose a campaign for you, depending on whether you do well or you don't. So it's too often we start a campaign and say, oh, I got my manager, oh, we need a press secretary. Oh, Joe, you need the press secretary. No, Joe's not trained. Joe's not the press secretary. Too often we do that. You hire a good staff, you're going to win a lot of campaigns. You just do it on the fly, good luck. Okay? So again, I won't go through all these. I think you have all these already translated. But the point is, look at all the responsibilities. A professional staff will have it. The field director, again, we talked a bit about this. They run, it's usually the largest department in the campaign in numbers of staffers. They do the voter contact. They build crowds for rallies. They canvass voters. They do canvass door to door and phone. They do voter contact. They do get out the vote. Hugely important. Highly professional. Highly detailed. Again, we won't go through all these, but by the way, I'm rolling through these kind of fast. Normally this takes about 10 hours to go through each of these in the courses. But you'll have it, you have them in your book, and again, just look at them and know if you don't have people in these positions that are highly trained, you're probably making a mistake. Okay? All right, bookkeeper, that's an obvious one. This isn't a joke for me. It's a person that keeps me out of jail. In the United States, there are election laws. If you violate them under U.S. law now, I can go to jail. It used to be a civil penalty. I get fined. Now I can go to jail. They changed the law in 2006. So I want a bookkeeper that says, are we doing everything right here? We stick into the law because I don't want to, I'm the manager, I don't want to go to jail. Okay? So again, somebody that knows the laws, sticks to them, knows the deadlines. Again, there are software packages for them to use in a campaign you can buy. Aristotle has them where they'll do bookkeeping that actually, if you punch a number in, it'll update your total numbers automatically. Very slick, they're not that expensive, but you need a good bookkeeper. Legal counsel, self-explanatory. I want a good lawyer. Am I doing this right? Am I missing a deadline? Am I violating the law by taking this contribution? Or somebody wanted me to, they gave me a car to use in the campaign. Can I do that? Is that legal? Do I have to report that? Any questions like that, get good legal counsel. Don't let some stupid thing like that. Jardine took a car. Oh, I couldn't do that. I thought it was an in-kind. I thought I could. No, you couldn't. And now that's the headline. It looks like I intentionally violated the law. I didn't. I was just stupid. Brought it all through an attorney. And finally, coordinated campaign director. The only thing I want to mention, and this is the last one, is that sometimes there are activities that you can coordinate through your campaign for mayor with the candidate that's running in your party for governor, candidate running for president. You don't all need to do a field operation or do a voter registration. You can coordinate it together. And any place you can do that, you should do that. Okay? So coordinated campaigns, some countries do them, some don't. But where you can essentially cut duplication and save money, you should do it. And so I would tell my manager, look for areas that we could maybe couple with the gubernatorial candidate or the presidential candidate. So maybe one weekend they do voter registration and the next weekend we do. But it makes no sense that we're duplicating our efforts. Okay? Or we're contacting voters a certain way. Or we're calling voters to turn them out to vote. Should the Liberal Party get 5 phone calls from 5 different candidates on election day? No, that would be a waste of tremendous resources. Let's coordinate how we do voter contact and voter turnout. All right, that's kind of quick and dirty, but the bottom line is this stuff is another one of these things. If you understand why you're running, what leadership is, if you understand how to message, if you understand that you need a professional staff, I mean, you get one shot at winning. Why would you not do this? Make sure they're the best. Make sure you cover all the innings. And by the way, when you do it, they tend to pay for themselves. Wow, did you go down to Jardine's office? You've got a heck of an organization. Those guys don't miss a beat. They'll pay for themselves. And the contrast is, if we do something wrong, wow, Jardine campaign screws up all the time. The schedule's horrible. They don't return press calls in time. So the media puts in the paper, the Jardine campaign wasn't available for comment. You never want to read that in the paper, right? Get a good staff and those things won't happen. All that I'm trying to do with everything that we're teaching today, tomorrow, and on Sunday, control the things you can control. I can control whether I have a good professional staff. Control it, because that'll save me headaches down the road. There's things in a campaign I cannot control. My candidate says something stupid, something happens, 9/11 happens, planes hit the towers. I couldn't control it. So I needed to devote all my energy. If I'm spending my whole day worrying about the schedule screwed up, or the press office isn't doing its job, or the policy team didn't prepare the candidate, I'm taking all my energies on things that should have been controlled. And I'm going to lose. When I control the things I can control, I will win every campaign I do. And I'm proud to say, in all my life of managing campaigns, I lost one. And it was one I shouldn't have taken. It was a friend. I told him I didn't think he could win, but I love the guy, and we got beat. And I went against my own instincts. And I don't say that with arrogance. I'm proud that we won, but they're hard. We win because we do this. That's why we win. you'll win too. Please do that and go win your campaign. Thank you.